occupation. All right? See, part of what we want to do is we want to provide people with as much information as possible. So somebody is making an informed decision. You understand the pros and cons. You understand the risk factors. Now, that includes taking a look at Outlook. So when we take a look at Outlook, we can take a look at Outlook in terms of national outlook, long-term state projections, or we could look at regional occupational projections. And the dates on these vary from state to state. So if we want to drill into this data, and we're going to take a look at Michigan, since I think that's where we are. So when we talk about labor market information, if you want labor market information, we have labor market information. And so now we'll look at the economic forecast region, the Detroit area. And we'll look at the sampling area. So although there is data nationally, now if we look at architects, and I don't care about how an opening occurred, so I like to look at total annual openings. And so for this area, we are talking about on the average. And my goal is to optimize your relationship with work. So the more synergistic with work you are, the more money you're going to make ultimately, and the less stress. So what, 75% of illnesses are stress-induced? So the less stress you're going to have, you know, you're not going to be going to the stress clinics and so forth. So we're really talking about data-intense decision-making. Now, we can also look at a business database. In other words, we can begin to use, did you folks cover standard industrial codes? Okay, so there are things called SIC codes and NAICS codes. SIC codes stand for Standard Industrial Codes. All businesses are categorized according to a code that describes basically what you do. So one of the things I can do now is I can take this data and I could say, okay, I want to load the recommended codes, and I have no idea whose address this is, but we can geocode an address. So if we're going to do a job hunt, now this is very important because, you know, we all talk about the unpublished job market and all of that, but then, you know, how do you go find it? Well, one of the things is if we can identify what you want to do, we can connect using standard industrial codes to where might you do this. And so what I'm going to do is connect this, and I'm going to take a little chance here and say, I want within 10 miles of whatever residence those two codes represent, and I'll show you how we get at that in a moment. And then I don't want any companies that have less than 10 people working there, and I can now search, and who knows what we're going to come up with. So whatever I chose, you can see this is not rehearsed, you know, because I'm a risk taker. I really do believe in risk taking, but I believe in calculated risks. I do. I don't believe in foolish risks. So what we'll do, we'll back up, and we won't use the proximity search. Just show you how it works, by the way. We can take your address and put your address in the system, calculate the longitude and latitude of your address. And this is really important for clients that have no reliable transportation with their cars. I've got a few people that have got beaters for cars, and so the closer to their home, the better. And then in some cases, I've had clients with no driver's license, and due to their transgressions, they are not going to have a driver's license, and so they need something within walking or bicycle distance. And you know, a mile on a cold evening is more than a mile, you know, when you think about it. And then if you're in a public contact occupation, like you're a clerk or something, and you get there and you've been perspiring because you dressed warm, and you get there, now they're mad at you because you smell. And these are all little things that we don't think about. And then your client is on the phone saying, I got fired for hygiene reasons, you know, and so forth. And then, of course, if you did the placement, you're over there arguing that this wasn't fair, you know, and so forth. And people don't care. There's enough people out here. So, you know, and I have clients from all walks of life, by the way, including people who spend a little time as the guest of the federal government or the state of Michigan. And when you do a placement with a lot of these folks, it's a one-strike ball game. It really is. It's a one-strike ball game. So I like to load the dice in our favor if I can. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to pick a few counties here, and just to take another chance, I'm going to use Berrien, Branch, Calhoun, Cass, and Charlevoix counties. So that's another way we can do this. We can do this by zip code, whatever works for a given client. And so what happens now is, oh, please let me get a list. And there we go. And so what happens is now we get a list, and it tells us that, yeah, 35 companies match that. And then from there, what we can do is we can print a report. And I call this report the Dialing for Dollars report. Because in addition to all the job search websites and so forth, we dial for dollars. Okay, part of it is calling up companies and seeing if they have any openings and so forth. And believe it or not, most of my clients are getting jobs dialing for dollars. Because Career Builder, Michigan Talent Bank, and I'm not knocking any of these things, I'm just saying 2 million people are looking at the same ad over there. So I find employers like the idea that you would find them, and many times they're curious about how did you find us, and because we do in fact have an opening and so forth. So by now you get the idea that all this data is available. So if we want to look and see, is there anything in the Occupational Outlook Handbook related to this particular occupation, we can. And what that means is we can use any of this information and export any of this information, not just for the purpose of information, but tweaking somebody to write a resume.
The employers that you just looked up, they just employers that employ architects?
No, these are companies where, so if you use statistical data that's out there looking at who companies hire, you can cross-index that with standard industrial codes, or the replacement for that are NAICS codes, North American Industrial Classification System. Yeah. So in other words, by reverse engineering government data as far as where people work, we can attach codes to it and say, these are the most probable companies that hire architects. Right. Yeah. But that doesn't mean they necessarily have an opening. Right. But it does.
Companies that hire architects.
Yes.
Right, within that radius.
Yes. Okay. Yep. No guarantee that they're hiring, but I mean, we can increase the probability we're going to get a hit. Feel free to ask questions as I'm going along, by the way. So I mean, it's not like you can't ask anything. Now, so